explaining to do. I happened to come across Candace Owens' podcast yesterday where she basically breaks down how Kamala lied and has been lying to all of us about her family and particularly about her black grandparents. She's going to break it down in here, but I want you to look at this photo. This is who the woman in black and white is, who Kamala Harris says is her great grandmother, and the one in color says that is her actual grandmother. And this was all published in her book, right? So this is what we've been made to believe. And these are the only photos of her father's side of the family that she has produced, I believe. I could be wrong. There could be other ones somewhere else. But in the book, these are the photos of that side of the family. This is the evidence that we have that somebody in her family was black. Well, it turns out that this person is not her grandmother or her great-grandmother, and that all of this has just been a bunch of gaslighting and lies. I know it sounds crazy. You're not allowed to question if someone's black. I don't really care. But when you want to throw into our faces that this person's black and the first black woman and black, and there's already questions about your race, there's already questions about, how you are part of the black community and all of that, and you're using that as a big part of your identity and part of the reason why a lot of people will vote for you, well, then you have to answer some questions. Would it normally be any of our business? Absolutely not. But they've made it our business. They've made this a big deal. And this right here is shocking. Let's get into it.
With friends like that, who needs enemies? Then came me. I don't know. I guess I really am the person that has been in these streets, Kamala, because I decided to simply look into her genealogy, because why on earth is the world trying to convince me that this woman is suddenly black? Like they just decided she was black because she's running and because there is evidence, it is true, that her father grew up in Jamaica. Your race does not magically change because of where you grow up, okay? If I grow up in Sweden, I don't get to suddenly say I'm white, okay? And what I discovered...
That's another thing, too. Kamala always says that she's Jamaican and Indian. Being Jamaican does not mean that you're automatically black. There's other races in Jamaica other than black. That doesn't equal that. So again, with the gaslighting that, because you're from Jamaica, that must mean that you have black in you, or that's where your family is, that it's illogical to even bring that up as a point.
It was quite startling. Now, I'll ask you, when did you first get the idea that...
And not only that, where your dad's side at? Where that family at? You never brought no cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews from your dad's side, but you gaslighting the people, telling them that you're black when you don't even admit that you're black, Kamala. Come on now, stop the gaslighting, the foolishness.
That Kamala was black. Well, you'll say, yeah, when she kind of started running with Joe Biden, and that claim really came from Kamala herself. When they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, they understood that Kamala Harris published a book in 2019 called The Truth That We Hold, and presumably the book was filled with truth that she was holding. I had a look through it, and I saw this picture of her and her grandmother, clearly a black-looking grandmother, on page 282 in the photograph section. It reads, as you can see, visiting my paternal grandmother, Beryl, in Jamaica. Also on that same page, there's another photo of her. Again, you can see it's black and white. I'm not quite sure why it is black and white, but it says, when I was 10 months old, I visited Spanish Town, Jamaica. This is me with my mother and my paternal grandfather, Oscar Joseph. And now this guy looks mixed. He looks Asian of some description, but you can see the idea here is that she's definitely trying to introduce, in a manner of photos, things that make her race look more complicated. So I just decided to investigate that, and immediately things got weird, very weird. First and foremost, because it was very easy for me to determine via just a light search online that Beryl, her alleged paternal grandmother that you just saw, died 4 years before Kamala was born, in 1960. So last night we decided to continue our...
Did y'all catch that? The grandmother was dead 4 years before Kamala was born. So then, who is this woman in the photo, the one that was in color? who is that woman? Because you look like a young adult. Kamala, you'll see the photo shortly. Kamala looks like a young adult in that photo, well, actually, you saw it already. It looks like a young adult in that photo standing next to her grandmother. But that woman died before you were even born. So, who is this woman that you have claimed and you said is your grandmother, your father's mother? Like, did they just pull some random black woman and say, oh, this is now my grandmother? This is not making sense.
Research to see if we could find birth certificates and marriage certificates and death certificates, which could further signify those points, and indeed it did. And it also raised even more questions about her genealogy, so let's go through those. Here is the birth certificate for her paternal grandmother. This is Kamala's paternal grandmother, Beryl. Okay, now you can see on this birth certificate that Beryl is spelled with an I. It's Beryl Magdalene, and you can see the reason why we know this is the correct Beryl is because the mother is listed as Iris Finnegan. Later on, we're going to show you in the book, she names Iris Finnegan as her great-grandmother. So that would be Beryl's mother. So we have the right woman. Also, formerly, her maiden name is Allen. That is true. It also says here that she's born in October of 1917 in St. Anne. That's the St. Anne parish of Jamaica. And again, you can see it says it is signed by Iris Finnegan. Very clearly, this is the woman that we are looking for. This is Kamala's grandmother, alleged grandmother, Beryl. It's also interesting, by the way, that it lists her great-grandmother as a seamstress because Donald Harris, Kamala's father, wrote in a 2020 piece called Reflections of a Jamaican Father, quote, Miss Iris, that again would be his grandmother, was the mother of 8 children, too, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough farming woman who ran the cane farm at Thatch Walk, near Annan Town, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. Okay, that's weird. So you're telling me that she ran a farm because on that birth certificate it says that actually Iris was a seamstress, but whatever. Let's just...
And was it a farm or a plantation? Because she comes from wealthy plantation owners, Kamala Harris. I know she keeps talking about she's middle class and her mother was an immigrant and they didn't have no money and they was broke and all these other things. But no, they actually were very wealthy and had plantations. So was she running one of the plantations?
Yeah, how about that? So was her mom on the plantation and the father was an overseer and had sex with her mom out of wedlock? Because you notice the father was never in her life when she was a child. This is getting very interesting. Continue.
In there, and it was redone. I mean, was she really a seamstress? It's just not making sense. None of the stories are adding up. It just seems like all of this was a fabrication.
Park that aside for a second and stick with Beryl, this woman who died before Kamala was born, okay? Because I was feeling pretty certain that not too many people were going to be named Beryl and be born in the St. Anne parish of Jamaica in 1917 to a mother named Iris Finnegan. I felt confident that we could find a little bit more data, and in fact we did, okay? First, we stumbled across Beryl's marriage certificate. Okay, so you can see that right here. And now the name spelling has changed. You have Beryl Finnegan spelled with a Y in the same way that Kamala spells it. And it lists their married date as 1944. Again, you can see the parish that is listed is St. Anne Parish. This is where every piece of Beryl's life seems to take place. It reads here that her calling is a barmaid. And something that jumped out at me was the fact that she's married to someone, as you can see, named Lawford Newland. Okay, so Beryl apparently was married more than once because Lawford Newland is not Donald Harris's father, but Beryl is his mother. So just to be clear, again, it says that she married a guy named Lawford Newland in 1944 when she was 25 years old, okay? It's important to note that that would have been 4 years after she gave birth to Donald Harris, Kamala's father. I find that to be very strange. Also, regarding Kamala's father, we cannot seem to locate, regarding Lawland Newland, the person that she married, we can't find him. Can't find him anywhere. We cannot find a birth certificate. We cannot find a death certificate. We can't find a news item or otherwise. I cannot find this alleged Lawford Newland that apparently her grandma got married to. We also can't find a wedding certificate for Beryl and Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown Harris. That is allegedly supposed to be Donald Harris's father. Okay, so Kamala's grandfather is Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown Harris, and we can't find a marriage certificate between the two of them. That's very strange.
So she married Kamala's actual grandfather, I guess allegedly got divorced, and then married another man, had a child, had Kamala's father, and then she married another man. But that man is nowhere to be, you can't find any other information about him. And the Kamala's actual grandfather, who's supposed to be the grandfather, there's no information about.
It sounds like a bunch of horn was going on, especially back in those days, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of ladies sleeping with men. Understand me? Like, and I hate to say it, in the African American community, a lot of females get pregnant by different guys. The guys ain't in the kid's life. And we notice Kamala Harris don't have no pictures with her other side of the family, which would come from her dad's side. So where's those photos at, ladies and gentlemen? Continue.
About him. So who fathered Kamala's father? Like, this is just, it's just very weird. Now, it could have been some street activity, some side activity, a little get down at the plantation, you know how it goes. And was this all a fabrication to cover up a child born out of wedlock? And then it was taken on, like, it's, questions need to be answered, but of course, are we going to, will they give us any answers? Will Kamala ever answer these questions? And will the mainstream media even ask these questions? No. You're not allowed to talk about race, even though we keep shoving it down your face, even though we keep, making things by identity politics, even though we're campaigning and we know trying to get a large swath of people to vote because of your race. We're not supposed to ask any of these questions, even though you're making it our business. It wouldn't be any of our business if it wasn't put out there like that. But let's continue.
As speculated, we were able to confirm that Kamala's black grandmother that she showed us in that picture died in 1960, before Kamala was born. I can show you right now her death certificate. Let's take a look at Beryl's death certificate, which confirms. As you can see there, it says that she died in July of 1960. It also tells us on the right-hand side, you guys probably have to zoom in on this, but she died of a uterine infection, uterine fibroids due to a hysterectomy. It has her listed as 39 years. That's actually a couple of years off from 1917, so somebody may have gotten their math wrong here. But you once again see that it lists her birthplace as St. Anne. And so this is a huge scandal. Huge scandal. Kamala Harris published in her book that she was standing next to her Grandma Beryl. But Grandma Beryl died in 1960, 4 years before Kamala Harris was born. So who the hell is the real Beryl? Who is that woman standing next to Kamala Harris? And do you know what I noticed about?
Not the plantation mammy, not your nanny that you're trying to pass off as your actual grandmother. Is that what you did? Girl, tell the truth. Is that just a worker on your very rich family's plantation, and now you've gaslit us to believe that that's your family?
That woman sitting next to her, she looks a lot like the woman that Kamala claims in her book is her great-grandmother, Iris. Now, that's Iris Finnegan. Here's the book with my great-grandmother, Iris Finnegan in Jamaica. Now, I'm going to give you the side-by-side of Iris and her alleged daughter, Beryl, who died at 39. Now, that woman on the right is not 39 years old. She's clearly much more advanced in her age. I mean, we know black don't crack. I mean, that's just a scientific fact. So I would put that woman on the right-hand side, who she tried to pass off as Beryl, and I think is the exact same person. I would say that woman looks to be about 65. And then it looks like she's more advanced on the left-hand side. The great-grandmother, that's the same person. When I just believe my own eyes, we're looking at the same person.
It does look like the same person if you see how the mouth is. Now, they're claiming that this is great-grandmother in the black and white photo, and this is grandmother in the colored photo, right? But it does look like it's the same woman, just aged up. But then this is not making sense, because Kamala Harris is like a younger, like an adult in the picture with the grandmother, but then with the great-grandmother, she's supposed to be a child. This is how they're passing it off, and they even made the photo black and white to seem like it was older. But it's the same woman. That's what it looks like to me. I know you can look like your mother and you can pass it down, but this looks like the exact same woman. But then that doesn't make sense, because the woman is older on the left when Kamala was a baby, and she's an adult when the woman is younger. How? Like, someone do them. I'm not the smartest cookie, in the jar, and I wasn't that great at math, but this is not adding up.
What do you guys think when you look at those photos? How the hell does a person who is the vice president of the United States pass off a book, claim that these people that are in her book are her black relatives, and nobody bats an eyelash or does even a peripheral search to recognize that the woman that she put forth is implausibly her grandmother? And by the way, I'm going to say this, and people can be offended, but the first thing that I thought when I saw the photo of her sitting on her great-grandmother's lap was that this doesn't look like a grandparent affection going on here. Like, this woman looks like she could be working for the family. Quite literally, I thought to myself, this woman looks like she could be the help. And I thought that because there's a lack of affection there. Do you know what I mean? But there's no...
It looked like they just sat that baby there, and this woman don't even know who this baby is. And even when she was standing next to the grandmother, it just was kind of, maybe people have different relationships with their grandparents. They're not going to always be affectionate. So that's not a big deal. But the math and then the photos, it's not making sense. That's what that's why I said, was this a plantation nanny? It just is what it is. That they had workers that would take care of the children, or a nanny, or, mama and them that would be there to raise the children, but they were part of the help. That's what it looks like to me.
Like in both of the photos, there's a lack of affection. It's just like a woman standing next to her, and I obviously know that was a circumstance. When you're talking about a family that had a ton of plantations, which is the reality. She descends from Irish slavers. That is a fact that Kamala Harris cannot deny. She descends from wealthy Irish slavers who virtually did own the town. They named the town. It was Hamilton Town, then it was Brownstown in Jamaica. He had over 1,000 slaves, okay? It would follow that there would be help around the house. And I'm just going to put here as a question mark, not as a fact. If they're looking at some of these photos of people who became like family and they're trying to pass them off like relatives, again, not a fact, a huge question mark, but my instinct tells me that that person is actually not her family member. And if it is, well, Kamala's got some explaining to do. How did she meet Grandma Beryl almost 20 years after Grandma Beryl died? Kamala Harris looks to be about 20 in that photo that she presented. Then there's another bit of a mystery, as I said. If Beryl married after her, or before her wedding when she was 25 years old, to the missing Newland, if anybody can find Newland, please let me know. But if Beryl married at some point Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown, where is their marriage certificate? And where is their divorce certificate? Again, I'm only prodding the narrative here because I'm going to need proof that she's black. The media has now made this a thing, and now you made it so much of a thing that you're attacking people like Janet Jackson when she asks a very reasonable question that you should be able to respond to, and now we have a verifiable lie that Kamala Harris told in her book, or a big uh-oh, because, you know, if I'm being nice, I guess sometimes you think when you're publishing a book that it's a photo of you and your grandmother that you never met, or never could have met. Maybe Kamala was just confused and thought it was her grandma, but it was a grandmother that she had, again, never met. Media should be on this, and they should be asking her this question. How did you make this significant of a blunder in your book? And isn't it quite ironic that every photo that you have presented, two of which look like they're the exact same person, one aged on, which begs the question, is that even Kamala Harris in her lap? I don't know. Again, we're at the beginning of this investigation. But it's interesting that amongst all of the relatives, so many Irish white slavers, the only photos that she chose to put in this book are the ones that make it look as though she might be black, and we have just significantly and without question debunked one of those photos. Also, there's something else that I notice about Beryl and Oscar, this alleged married couple, right? Our alleged husband and wife. Each of them are listed as having a lot of siblings. Oscar's siblings are named Hildred May Harris, Newton Alexander Harris, and Ina Doreen Harris. I cannot find a single photo of these siblings. Now, why am I looking for it? Well, because people take family photos all the time. Tons of the stuff is on the internet. I mean, one of those people lived until 2005. Ina Doreen Harris allegedly lived until 2005. I would just like to see a photo to confirm that these are black relatives. Just want to confirm their race. Can't find a trace. Similarly for Beryl Finnegan has siblings too. Their names are Abraham Judah Finnegan, Noah Pendergast Finnegan, Bernard Washington Finnegan, and Gloria Eugenie Hill. Where are they? Or where are any photos of them, presuming that they've passed? Where are the photos of them? They've got to be somewhere, right? Something very suspicious is going on. I don't know how it is plausible, guys. Do not allow the media to gaslight us. It is not difficult, okay, for a person that is running for president of the United States to have a tidy background. This is my mom. This is my dad. This is my grandma. That it always seems to be the case that right before they run, they introduce like one or two photos that they allege are from their childhood. This is my grandma. This is my mom. And if you ask any more questions, I'm going to scream at you and call you a racist, is completely ridiculous. We now have a scandal on our hands, okay? And again, this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep looking for these relatives. I'm going to confirm that all of these people are in fact black. I find it strange, just as a little tidbit, that when you go on these genealogy websites, you can see that there's somebody managing the profile. All of the people that are managing the profile for Kamala's relatives are white. What interest would white people around the United States have in managing the profile for this Jamaica family? Unless what Janet Jackson said was true, and that these are her white Irish relatives, and she's been hiding that fact by trying to introduce some random photos of a woman and purporting that that woman is her grandmother. Again, if she's been with you throughout your entire life, Kamala, you could drop some more photos, but no matter what, you lied in your book. Okay, you lied in your book. That woman died in 1960, and you were born in 1964, and I find that to be extremely problematic.